مع الأستاذة إنصاف عثمان حمروني. ستأخذنا بحديثها لتجربة تفاعلية لنصمم معا مساحات ونحاول أن نعكس هويتنا الخاصة. فتفضل يا أستاذة إنصاف.
شكرا. We just start with the first slide first. Is it working? Oh, yes, there you go. So today we will be talking in this session about a very important topic. It's about the spaces we co-create is the spaces we are. And I also will tell you even more than that. The spaces we co-create, we are. As simple as that. It's been 15 years now that I'm working in the field of community development, conflict management, architecture in context of crisis, of conflict, of refugeehood, and what some people would say and would call it's architecture, emergency architecture. But in reality, what happens for me and for the major, let's say, new generation of architects and urban planners is actually we shift and we change our way of practicing architecture and practicing art and practicing also planning to build communities. So we are building communities through with art and architecture. And what I like to say and to describe it in reality, that instead of designing what all the time people will look at us, we are designing buildings, we are designing cities, etc. It's more about designing collectively possibilities for positive impact. So I will start my presentation with this quote that I like a lot, and I read it. The city has been described as the natural habitat of the civilized man. Indeed, the city and the urban environment represent the most coherent and all in all, the most successful attempt to transform according to our own desire the world in which we live. Thus, by creating the city, man has recreated himself. It's in this sense and in this respect that the city can be seen as a social laboratory. During today, a lot of guest speakers were talking about designing the city, how we will be able today to give a response to what's happening, the complexity of the world where we live with. And during the whole speech, it was one question that repeats itself: how us, as practitioners, as city makers, as artists, as, let's say, active in this society, we will be able to face such complexity. And this question in itself hides another one, is in reality that how we would be able to change the way how we practice today. So, during this session, which will not be a session held by myself, but will be also engaging you in some part of it, and we will see through this social experimentation afterwards what we have been doing together. So we will be shifting by a mindset of designing, planning in reality, into to be much more open and accepting the fact that we need to empower dynamics to co-design, to negotiate, and to unplan. So today, basically, what I'm saying is, like me as an urban planner and an urban strategist and an architect, I'm basically what I'm doing, undoing, opening the city. And the city, with the quote that I've mentioned, I hope that we all understand that the city, it's not the city. We are not designing for. A city is basically the product of who we are, of how we share, how we live together, and how we will be able to thrive together. And this is what I call it, it's the, let's say, the wave of urban tinkering. And this is the way how we also understand the city as being a system of systems. And of course, our minds today and the way how we, even for students, let's say the new generation, etc., are not trained to cope with complexity, are not trained to be able to grasp the fact that we are not in control of what is happening. So the question that also comes up a lot, and I like it very much today because it looks like it's also kind of became a global question, is what we are doing today, are we making development for development? Are we designing for design? Are we basically planning for planning? Because it looks like. And this is quite, the trap where we are into it. So when I talk about co-creation, and we will see it now, it's about the fact to understand what it means a community. It's how are we capable of building a community? How we will be able to, let's say, moderate power, share it, create its context. How we will be able also to put the basis of coexistence. And these elements and these not even concept, because in reality they are even more complex than that, we will try today to do it together. So we will try through what? So you see here there are 3 tables, and I will need volunteers, 5 per each table. We will have 10 minutes, it's very quick. Each one of you, as you can see, this is what it means, participation, so I invite everybody there to come here with me, because we will be experimenting this, and we will go back then after that to understand what it means co-creating spaces and what it means we. So let's go. There you go. Come on. So we take the advantage today. It's very funny, by the way. It's very, interesting, yes. So we use it all the time, what we call them in participatory design workshop. So we design with communities, we design with different actors, we mediate that they shape and they design their own cities. And this is today how basically we democratize the practice of architecture and planning. So there you go, you can stay. So what we have here, just to explain for you, it's very simple. It's a game, all right? So you have these pillars that you can see here. They are of a number of 10. So in each one of them, I wrote what we will try to do together. It's what is my ideal neighborhood. So my ideal neighborhood is, and you can see, for example, here is safe. I can walk at night. So these are what we call them your desires, all right? And you have one that is empty. So it means that each group of you will decide what we will be writing here, okay? Then each one of you will have here, it's your crayon, okay? And you will write your name in this. You will choose a color, of course, and you will be weaving. So it's really very connected to the speech we had before. So we will take this line, and as you can see, there are 2 holes here. It means what? If me, Insaf, I will choose the orange, all right? And in this orange, what I will be doing is actually, I would say, okay, my ideal neighborhood is safe, I can walk at night. Is it very important to me or not? If it's very important, I will put it up, all right? If it's not, I will put it down. And from this, I will make a knot, and then I will go back to the second, to the third, to the fourth, etc. And you will be weaving, actually, envisioning collectively what is your kind of, ideal neighborhood, individually and collectively, and we'll see later on how it is. But while you are writing your names, choosing the colors, what we did as well is we afford for those who are quite shy to come on stage, and for those who are online to do it on a virtual platform, Miro, on a whiteboard, all right? So basically, here are the rules. So you join your table. It's already, we gained the time for it. You choose your color and you write your name. Then you read all the criterions, so these ones. You decide on one of it, and then, of course, you start weaving, all right? And I will be with you in that. And this is the QR code for those who are willing to do it online. Of course, online is quite a little bit hectic because if you don't know Miro, but I mean, it's a good experiment. And this whiteboard will be open, I mean, forever. So you can go back to it and add as much as you want the element. So here it's a small video for those who would love to connect online. And meanwhile, I'm here with you to moderate the different tables. Let's start. We can put some music? Yeah? Thanks. So you are the blue, all right? And this is the red. Very good. And no, you have to come here at the same table. 5, yes. So because I will tell you why 5 is the key. There you go. There you go. So you have here the crayons. You write your names. Go. Up, up, up. All right, you choose. Yeah, choose. You want black too? We don't have another black. Yeah? There you go. And here. And I will be with you then. Session. So after you do that, you read all that is written here. And then you decide on the empty one. Where is your empty one? This one. So you decide all together what is your ideal neighborhood is. Okay, and you write it down on it. Okay? So car-free, it means no cars. In my neighborhood, there is no cars at all. Yes. Oopsie daisy. And you choose the green or the yellow? Yellow. And you are the pink, and you are the blue, and I will go for the green then. There you go. Oh, some people have started. Good. So it's that. There you go. And I'm the green. So. So have you decided on the common one? Not yet. So you wanted to read it all through and see which one, each one of you discuss. You say, okay, for me, my ideal neighborhood is, and then you decide. All of you, like you discuss about it. Yes. This one, it's I'll tell you. It's colorful and joyful. مليان ألوان بيفرح. كله كده يعني عاوزاهم يكون في ألوان كتيرة في النيبرهود ومحتاجة يكون في شوية فرحة يعني ممكن decorations etc. Yeah? Yeah. تختارهم كلهم as you wish. You can start this one. كل واحد فيكم تختار اللي هي عاوزاه. It means what? It means that you, for example, here you want it and you start reading. So each one of you will start with one لحد ما تكملوهم كلهم. You connect them all. Yeah? Yes? Good? So for those who wanted to, for Miro, there is a video there showing you how you can, work on that as well. But you have more criteria then. Yeah. So for those who will be connecting online, what you should do is basically the same thing. So there is a place where you can write your name, you pick a color, and then you go back to this kind of virtual, table, and you will start weaving. You don't care about the aesthetic, but it's about how it could be joined together. Yeah? Here we go. There is a third table here. So we can have 5. Basically this, I put it 5 because in participatory workshop, the best to hear each other, because one of the rules is to be able to listen to each other, is the number 5. Beyond the number 5, people will start not listening to each other. So this is something very important for us. And please keep your questions. We will have time to have questions afterwards about what we are basically doing. So yes, so you start picking up color, each one of you. You picked, great. You write your name on the name tag, this. You read all the criteria, this is my ideal neighborhood is, okay? And you decide all together, you take 2 minutes to decide what is for all of you, the ideal, one of the criteria, ideal neighborhood. Read them and you waive them also, because these are quite me, you know, this is my degree of control, because it comes from, you know, other members of people. But then you will be having the choice all collectively to decide on one. All right? If you're not convinced about one of the criteria, you drop it. We do it together. Let's see it together. Okay, so now I'm reading all of them. So say my ideal neighborhood, I put here car free, no cars. Is it important? Not important. If it's important, I will put a nod here. Okay, and do it. And then what I will be saying, oh, this one, it's about what? Is safe, I can walk at night. So what I will be doing, it's important or not important. So, but each one of you do it individually. That's why the colors. There you go. And then we wave. All right? There you go. So this is the Insaf. Nice to meet you too. How's everything? It's nice. You did it? Yeah, but you do it by your on the last one. It's okay. You talk. You take your time. That's the whole point. You can write down what you can do. You start writing down options, and then when you write down options, you will be able then to decide. Okay, how much I give to this one? 3 stars. The second one 2, 3, and then there is a way here. You're all deciding in a democratic way. Yeah. To this other one? To the video? To the QR code, yeah? Here we go. There we go. Yes, please. Who asked for me? You asked for me? Beautiful. Which one you wanted to put it down? You want to put it down for you? It's hard. Of course, if you want it, it's up to you. What for you is important. No, it's good. We will see now why we're doing all of that. Of course, that تعايش. Not all have the same opinion. This one, then I want you to discuss all of you together. What is all as a common, as a group, want as an ideal. Yeah? Very good. Now what you should do, تعمليه حاولي معاهم تفكري في النقطة الأخيرة دي. Yeah? Very good. What? Market. It's like you know this. It's about street markets. Oh, sorry of my writing. That's the last student. Yes. Oh, nice. You decided on it? No, not yet. So let's what you propose, each one of you. What's your ideal neighborhood? Where I can practice sports. Okay. And you can be specific. You can say where I can find a soccer field. Okay. And for you? Open area. Okay, so you want something that is open, not dance. All right. And it's to be quiet. So basically here what we have, it's be quiet, you're already there. Okay? So, okay, it's of course if it's there written, so your opinion has been already stated. Okay, so that's good, and you give already your opinion about it. So you all together here, I can see that there are common things here. So we want open air and a place to play also different variety of sport, and in specific, a soccer field. All right, so you can write it down, and then all of you, you will be waving it. Like even for you, it's low. You just have to wave it too. So you put it as low. Yeah, go ahead. So we will have, I think, how many minutes left? It's how many minutes? Nobody is. That's interesting. We should have more tables now. So that's fine. So we will have 2 minutes each. I will. Yes. So how are all our tables? So we'll give you 5 minutes. Take your time. And just you can open area. All right, great. To be general, okay. But after that, normally, when you are too general, it's also risky because it could be interpreted in different ways. All right? Okay, so you just, more you give, more the second time that we do a round, what we call it also kind of consultation with a bigger number on what comes out from here, you see, people might misinterpret it. Okay? So that's why you add more and more, even with colors, with texture, with design, and you say more objective and experience. And this is how we will be able later on to say narratives of how we live in a city. So you describe your perfect day or your perfect life into it, or what you are, your vision actually. So you go back from the individual one to the collective one by also taking into account the individual one. So then basically what is our role us as planners and designers? We are not those who dream for. We are those who kind of listening and putting all this mess together in a way that we don't, create chaos kind of. Yeah? Great. So, have you finished, all of you? Think so, great. So thank you very much. We call all applause for those who have been with us. And you can take pictures. It will stay here if you want also to take it with you. No problem, but I will just give you now an explanation of what we did. So thank you very much for our volunteers and those who participated here. So what we did here, it's quite, a simulation of a participatory design workshop. And a participatory design workshop comes, of course, it's been now more than 80 years that we practice it everywhere in the world. And the field of planning, the most, emerged one is the integrated planning. Why I'm talking about integrated planning or complex planning, etc., because we are not really thinking of, let's say, the human habitat in terms of clusters or activities or way. We acknowledge the fact it's so complex. That's why we need a lot of multidisciplinary actors who are capable in a certain way to simplify this complexity or to regulate it. So we shift from the role, and I did, from the role of being the architect who dreams and say, hey, hello, I will be dreaming for you, and the planner who will tell you how you will have to live into your human habitat, whether we call it city or not, because it's beyond this definition today, and I invite you really to re-question what is a city is, to be much more as a facilitators, to be much more as a moderators, to be much more people who are capable of creating the environment for people to coexist, to negotiate, and to be in a continuous struggle of finding their space and giving their opinion. That means what? It means that I need much more skills than what I have to be able to achieve my new role. So let's go back here. So what we did, this is the retrospective. So what we did now. In reality, we had 3 tables and 1 virtual, right? So this is what we did today. So we had the same space, okay, with different individuals in each space. Basically, just that you can understand what I'm saying now, it means that I gave here a neighborhood, and me, for example, I'm the planner and the designer, and I will decide about how things will. I controlled actually the criteria, so I give you only one option to decide on the last one, all right? See here what we have as a result. And this is the proof that in reality, we can't design for people, they design for themselves. So means what? It means another thing that we did. So through what you did what you experienced during this period, lapse of time, you have been reading, you have been thinking, you have been discussing between each other, you have been negotiating, all right? Sometimes it turns really very violent. You have been reacting to certain opinions. Oh, really, do you want a soccer field? You have been feeling things, all right? Questioning, what I really like? Is it really what I want? Quietness? And you have been making and remaking and mistaking by, for example, not really knowing how to do and how to weave, etc., using these tools. So what we did actually during that, you have been conducted through actions. So I invite you within this lapse of time to be in reality taking action into a space. So as a little what we did, and imagine how impactful would be if we do that on a scale of a real neighborhood with hundreds of workshops, with hundreds of, let's say, participation and interaction and events that we did, and usually, let's say we use art for that, this is the best tools we can have to maintain everybody in a peace state. Imagine how big we can have as sharing knowledge, know-how, and know-being. So what we did in practice here, and what I always cherish, especially my first, let's say profession as an architect, is to consider that architecture, it's about a transfer of knowledge. It's a mechanism that we put into place to be able that either we transfer knowledge from individual to an individual, to community, or a leg through time. And today you experience that with a simple table, sticks, and small pieces of wool. So here it means what? That during this experience, you have been also maintaining your individuality, right? And you have been also getting a small experience about it, expressing your desire, and also getting a little bit of piece of knowledge because I'm involved with you as well into that. So here it's not that I'm only moderating, but also taking part of this process. So I'm part of what I call it here, your community. So a community, most of you will answer, a community is people who share things in common. I will tell you basically no. A community is a community that has been created through action. We put them through action, and through this process, which most of the time is quite painful, a community is built. And it's a process that it has to take, time. And you see here the challenge, because we are in this context of rapid, let's say, how we call it, the word, of very rapid transitions, transformation, etc. And I can say that basically these rapid transitions and transformation has quite a soft violence as well for us as individuals, because how we will be able to build our habitat if we are basically not being able to sit together and to be able to grasp all this amount of knowledge. So the same space, not the same places. And this is the difference between both. And here it means what? It doesn't work with, our Cartesian way of thinking, the way how we also study, the way how we think about the word, we process. So it's very it's out of the box. It needs that we have a little bit to get out from our comfort zone. So here we go back to some definition. It comes from even the 20s, after also, let's say, the 20th century, especially with Lefebvre, if you know him, what we call it the production of space. And this is something that is very hybrid, but is very real, because this is what you did today. You have been engaged in a glimpse of a production of space, where basically there is the mental, the social, the digital, and the physical reality have been colliding together through this action, all you together, through the discussion, through this action of weaving, of choosing a color, etc. So imagine that, for instance, if I give you hundreds of these colors to choose from, if I give you more to choose as a group and as individuals as criteria, imagine that each one of these, I didn't put the same amount of wool. It means here we have resources also to share and to acknowledge that. So here, basically, we can't design for X. That's not possible. Today, most of the time, we say master plan that say we are be designing for 10,000, 20,000 people. And this is not possible. You can see it today how it works. Because in reality, what you did today is having this, let's say, involvement in making the city made it much more sustainable and much likely that you will be part of it in its future and considering your own needs and the needs of others. But in reality, if I just give you the same plan for these 10,000 people within that, imagine what could happen and what is happening today. It's quite an hegemony of power. We will be quite emphasizing on problems, and we are building it. That's why planners and designers are part of the problems of today's world. So we need to accept first for that the paradox to plan the unplanned, and there are tools for that. To design disorder, I like that. We design disorders. We design ways to put people colliding and giving this room for things that I don't want to do. And that's why you hear about tactical urbanism sometimes, guru urbanism, people occupying some in-between spaces, etc. Because in reality, these are the spaces that they are left over that we didn't really think about them. But imagine that you can design for. We need to experiment the changes and the transitions, and to support transformation processes and adaptation. So this is give us a hint about what we should study and learn from a context, not the, let's say, traditional analysis we make based on only numbers. You know, we are not numbers, we are more than that. And of course, create possibilities. Imagine that you are basically designing possibilities and not really spaces. Designing possible things that could happen on a certain time, on a certain place, but you are not in control of, but you can at least give a little bit, you know, the infrastructure for it. So instead, we shift from we design and we plan, I would call it we facilitate and we strategize. Instead of developing projects and we conduct research, we go into, we participate into action and we are invited by from the people. We collaborate into a collective knowledge transfer. So here, it means that architecture, art, science, and technology are tools for collective intelligence. This has completely changed the way who we are and what we do. So they are tools and not a finality. And of course, here to understand these words, that community, coexistence, and the common, it's about to be community, but at the same time leaving room for the individual to have its own privacy and his own say and his own, you know, right to thrive and to prosper. When we talk about coexistence, it's also to leave the collectives in a certain way to keep also his own identity, etc. And this is what happens today. A lot of problems are happening with the globalizations and these trends of modernization that in reality, it only creates responses, but responses that are not carried out by the people who should kind of, you know, try to make them in a peaceful transition. And of course, the common. Building the commons is very important. What is the common, especially today? It's about managing resources and teaching and showing the people that there are ways of how we manage resources together and doing them. It's not, we can't do it. We can't think of how many people can, you know, let's say, consume energy, or how far they need, for example, you know, certain fruits in their city, etc. But we can give them, let's say, ideas, enhance their creativity, and to be there as actual actors within a group of society, you know, and multidisciplinary actors into making the city. So thank you very much. Voilà. Thanks. So if you have any questions, just go ahead. Yes?
Let's say how far we facilitate until what's the boundary to not design, to facilitate instead of designing.
Yes, so this is here we've talked about really, you know what I'm talking about is not really new. We have actually a quite a bit of toolbox and also the know-how of how we do facilitation through design, all right? So it goes with, of course, guiding rules. And facilitation, this is very easy. It means we need to have a knowledge and to learn ourselves in a kind of skills like, for example, how to listen, how to interpret people's speech, how we will be able to make the discussion and the dialogue happening, how we can give it, shape and giving this, access to all the resources that we can have and to know how to share them with these people. Because you will be surprised how much, even children are capable of designing their own environment and understanding, the way how it could be handled, it could be managed, etc. So for us, we give this technology or this science that we've learned and to facilitate through it, okay, by also reinventing tools, reinventing ways of doing it. But we forget completely about what is a master plan. We don't talk anymore about a master plan, So the children are the best to tell you how they want to play in their neighborhood. They will tell you how much they fear, etc. And this is now, I think you heard about like mind mapping tools, about, collective mapping. We do some kind of walking safaris with the people. There are things about the collective memories that people will do. And this is the best way. We are 8 billions in this world. Are you thinking that we will be capable of building and designing houses for 8 billions? I mean, for instance, in Egypt, you need to build a school every 3 seconds. We'll be able to do that? No. So we need really to think how we will be able to change what we have. And of course, it's not about dropping what we were doing, but also just seeing it differently, seeing it in a different way. And of course, we take a lot from the engineering for development because they have been working a lot into that, because they acknowledge that the only solutions comes from the people who have been hit hard. Okay. Yeah? Any other question? Those who participated, what you think about what you did? Yes, go ahead. Yeah, you have a question. And then it comes from those who participated. There. Yes.
Hello, thank you so much. It was a very interesting collaborative experience. I just have a general question. To what extent do you think the society has an effect on developing the urban communities? So what is the relationship between the influence of the designer and the, let's say, the necessities that are needed for the community?
Mm-hmm. So, the community by itself, in reality, they are capable of getting together. The first code that I mentioned, that the city, it's basically the social lab. So based on this definition, I can tell you that maybe 80% of the cities in this world are not cities. It means that normally these are when there is an environment that push people to be neighbors, for instance, to create this bond of neighborhood, to be able to all together, for instance, to clean up the street, which we, at a certain moment in our life, we lived that in that period when we have to be engaged into taking care about the security of the street, of the neighborhood, about the resources, about sharing, etc. We try to revive that. So we try to work on that. So what we do is actually bringing back people into decision-making, enabling their, let's say, power to decide, because today they don't. So when we give them room of giving a say, and it's not only to give opinion, here we are talking really that they are the ones who ask you into the game. It's not us, it's not the opposite. And that why we do that, because in reality, we end up having social problems putting a lot of money to create this kind of public space, which in reality didn't happen because things has been set in a way that we don't even give a room for people to negotiate, to collide, to talk with each other. And it's not a very peaceful, you know what I'm saying, what I'm talking about, but at least that these kind of people are afraid today from each other. We live in a quite, you know, very individuals in different clusters, and we have this kind of, you know, only very momentum periods when we are talking, etc., but very controlled. And this is, it's not a human habitat. And that's why in a time of crisis, the only places where really they are the ones to survive the most of you call them informal, but in reality they are not, is where we have the most solid social structures. And where people, in a condition when they have been left over, they decide about the way how they have to live, negotiate, and share their environment. And most of the things that we know especially are, you know, the pop-up markets or the informal markets when basically they are so much organized in a beautiful way and economically, you know, stable because it's a quite of knowledge. And sometimes it escapes our understanding because we have been practicing things now more than a century, a way of a very top-down approach where we think that we are the expert. And this is a mindset, which basically, in the world where we live, especially in the Arab region, we have to go back a little bit to our origins and to go back a little bit to recontextualize our practice and the knowledge that we had, because it's quite a colonized knowledge. We have been all studying concepts and ways of designing cities that are not ours or not linked to the way how we, you know, are. And it shapes us. We are quite a hybrid today. So it's today the time to open these labs and these opportunities to open up these debates and go back. You know, it's quite a hard thing because, of course, it's a hard work. It's not an easy one. It's like, you know, it's something that needs a lot of, you know, courage to do it. And it's not something that is simple. We all wanted to hide into our office and saying that we do it, you know, designing and so on. But this is basically, you have to make the difference between design and a creative process. Also, this is very important to know and to understand. But there is today a lot of the generation that are changing the way how we teach, learn, think, and shape the world that we live in and go beyond the words themselves. Yeah.
هذا إنصاف.
Yes. Thank you very much.
شكرا لك، شكرا. والله تستحق تحية كبيرة يعني على هذه التجربة التفاعلية الرائعة. تشرفنا بك وشكرا على حضورك.
Thank you for the invitation.
ويعني إن شاء الله تستمرين في هذا يعني الإبداع الرائع. شكرا.
Thank you very much. Thanks.